while there's a real push to move fast and build and do stuff, the people that are most successful also have the ability to slow down, to take space, to use time effectively. And so you've got to be in that balanced place in order to reinvent successfully. Anybody else have work up in the air and curious about what the future holds, maybe even looking to reinvent themselves? Then join in. Let's do this. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a new chapter for our Reinvention podcast. And if you've been listening for a while, you know that this podcast is an expression of reinvention. It's constantly evolving. And after dozens of conversations that I've had with founders, AI leaders, investors, and people who have reinvented their careers, I've walked away with one overwhelming observation that most people have no idea how much change is coming. Okay, now I've spent my career working as an executive coach, creating programs, a lot for corporations, but also for individuals who are looking to experience their higher purpose in this life. And I can tell you that in 20 years of doing this work, I've never had so many people come up to me with some fear and concern about the disruptions that are coming in the workplace that have already started and wondering what their place in the world is. And because I've had so many of these conversations, it forced me to look myself in the mirror. And for the first time in my life, I was like, what am I going to do for the next 20 or 30 years? And how am I going to create a life and an expression of work that is sustainable and has some level of safety and abundance and maybe even a little bit of fun? And instead of locking myself in a room and trying to figure this out or talking to chat, I decided to have conversations with people that I knew, people in the space, so I could understand what their perspective was. And so in this first episode of our new Reinvented podcast, I want to give you the two most important qualities the people who I believe are going to win the future embody. And I invite you to subscribe and follow this podcast along because as we get going for this next season and beyond, I've been interviewing some amazing people who have such unique perspectives. My goal is that each one of these episodes, you walk away with some tidbit, some mental model, some shift in your perspective, or maybe even just some motivation that will empower you to take actions that you need to take. I know I talk a lot about AI, and what I've learned from all these people I'm talking to is that technology isn't the story. Technology is forcing an issue. It's forcing the question of who am I? What am I worth? What can I do in the world that's valuable? It's really a question of identity. And it's been surprising for me because my career a few years back shifted to working with more corporate clients, founders, CEOs, people that are interested in communication strategies and leadership development. But behind closed doors, because reinvention is such a thing right now and changes in the air, everyone is worried and concerned about themselves. So the real work here isn't about learning how to use chat and Claude. It's about learning how to reinvent yourself and learning the tactics, the skills, the mindset shifts that will enable you to change fast, roll with what is emerging, and create a future that you could be so very proud of. Now, I want to talk about something that I've noticed from interviewing all of these incredible people. I've noticed that there are two groups of people right now. The first group has some fear, has some hesitation, is worried about things are going to break down and all fall apart. And the second group is mostly focused on what's possible. Very optimistic, very curious. Good example. I had Bill Gurley on the show. Now, Bill, if you don't know him, is a legendary investor, Benchmark Capital, early investor in Uber, wrote a book that is basically about reinvention, which is how I got him on the show. And you could just feel his energy about AIs. Man, anything is possible now. He's like, I don't even sleep at night. It was like talking to a 5-year-old kid that was so excited about what was possible. And I asked him, I said, aren't you worried that this can destroy culture, destroy work, and destroy this? And he goes, look, that's absolutely a possibility. But my only focus is on making a positive contribution using the tools and emergence of what's happening now instead of resisting it. And there's such wisdom in that, isn't there? We've got to get into this attitude that we're here now in this present moment, and the future is what we make of it. And it starts with belief. So as I interviewed several people who were all like frothing at the mouth about how much excitement they have for the future, it made me question, well, am I that excited? Or what can I build? And what can I do to get in flow with what's emerging and not on the sideline scared of what I don't know? So my friends, while you will get great tools and strategies and ideas that you can use in real life, The whole purpose of this podcast is about mindset, or at least it needs to begin with mindset. And so the invitation for you is shifting your mindset and joining me in doing this, because I'm still in process of moving over to a purely optimistic, excited standpoint about the future with the question that, what can I do? How can I build something that's cool and long-lasting and impacts people? And I want to share that I don't have this all figured out. Like I said, I started this podcast because I'm curious and I wanted to learn from people who may know better than me. But I do not have this figured out. In fact, to be really vulnerable, I've had a bunch of failures over the last few years. I've started businesses or projects, brought in business partners, and things didn't work out the way that I thought. And every failure or disappointment has been such a learning experience for me where I have to reflect after and sit down and think, wow, like what did I do wrong? What did I miss here? And so the process of reinvention isn't one by which you turn into a 5-year-old like Bill Gurley and all of a sudden everything is roses and you're just building stuff and making lots of money. This isn't the way for everybody. Okay, there's going to be some disappointment. There's going to be some hiccups. When we're talking about the notion of changing identity and changing belief, like, let's be honest, you know how hard that is? This is a really trying time. Even for me, that's been in this world of changing myself from the inside out, it's really hard to look at these shortcomings and change them because a lot of these patterns are unconscious. They're habituated ways of thinking and working. Most of the people that I talk to have no idea what the world can look like with a new job or a new career outside of the trajectory that they've been on for a long time. It's very hard for them to imagine that, which is why I always start with the question of, do you want to make a change? Do you really want to go down this path? Most people end up saying yes. And then the question of, well, what is it that you would like to create? So even with all this, I failed several times with doing all this work. And so the power to be resilient, right? To be able to pick yourself back up. And here's what I've learned from talking with all these people that have been fantastically successful is that they're never successful the first time. It takes so many times. And the more times you do it, the less perceived time in between disappointments, meaning you get back up faster than ever before. So just to recap these two very important qualities that all people need to be embodying right now. The first of which is that Bill Gurley 5-year-old child, like experimentation, fun, lightness, getting rid of the fear. And the second is a little bit of allow and reflect, a little bit of spaciousness, allowing yourself to go through the process of change. Okay, you can't change yourself overnight. You just can't. It takes time to break patterns, and you need to give yourself the space and the reflection to be able to move through the process of transformation. Changing a career path or dealing with the end of a certain trajectory or life is a big deal. Here's the good news. You can move through the process really fast by being in conversations like this, by getting some accountability, by talking to friends, by opening up. This is what's happening in the world. People are coming together and forming new relationships and having these type of open, vulnerable conversations because of the changes. This is good. Get involved in that. Like I've been on calls with people who you would consider to be the most successful, happy, abundant people on the planet. Behind closed doors, they struggle too. It's always surprising to me when I hear it, but people struggle. It's our nature. So let's get out of the idea that it's all going to be perfect in utopia or it's all going to end. Let's just get into the process. Let's get into the flow and see what we can make together. The goal is not to avoid failure. The goal is becoming someone who can reinvent faster. Life is like a blip in the matrix. We're going to flip our finger and we're going to be like 100 years old, hopefully, if we make it. I mean, just think about that. Whatever age you are right now, in 40, 50, 60 years, can you imagine if you were able to go into that version of yourself all those decades ahead and have the vantage point of being that person who's most likely not as fluid, probably not working as much, slowing down? And what that version of you would say to your version right now, they would tell you to get up and go for it. They would tell you to not complain, don't sweat the small stuff, and do what you can to live your most extraordinary life. They just would. And I think that this AI and emerging tech is forcing the issue, and we all need to turn into the conversation. While there's a real push to move fast and build and do stuff, the people that are most successful also have the ability to slow down, to take space, to use time effectively. And so you got to be in that balanced place in order to reinvent successfully. So once again, would love you to subscribe to this podcast. Would also love you to send this to 2 or 3 friends and say, hey, look, you got to join this thing. This is a good conversation. This guy, Todd Jason, he seems like he's all right. Okay. And then third, go to my website below, toddjason.com, and subscribe to my newsletter. Every week, I'm writing a newsletter called The Future of Work. I'm getting it out, which basically streamlines all the information that I'm getting from my clients, that I'm getting here on this podcast, into practical frameworks about how to reinvent, what the future of work looks like. Go ahead and subscribe. It's free. I'm not charging for it. My friends, I'm just grateful that you're on this journey with me. It's an open conversation. Reach out to me. Tell me what you would like me to cover more on this show, and I will do it. And I look forward to getting to know you personally. Take care.